Kia ora e tiwi. Welcome back to Under the Whāriki. I'm Tahu.
And I'm Anatola, and today we are talking about depression and anxiety. We have a beautiful guest with us today. I'm going to get her to introduce herself to us.
Well, kia ora. I'm Aaliyah. I am a mama. I currently live in the Waikato, but originally from Te Raki Pai Whenua, North Shore. But yeah, and I'm in social media management and content creation, and yeah, that's me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is, I've never heard that name for North Shore. Te Raki Pai Whenua.
Te Raki Pai Whenua.
That's the name for North Shore.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
To know.
That's
Learn
good.
something
Anyway.
new every day.
Yeah, actually, there you go. That
North
was
Shore
off the bat.
girl, eh?
Te Raki Pai Whenua.
No,
Don't hold that against me.
Yeah. All right. So on the show, we like to start with an icebreaker. It's called yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. Well, it's actually called yeah, nah, yeah. But yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. You get to choose which side of the statement you are on. If you're in agree or in disagree.
Yeah, and sometimes we're like a strong yes, strong no, but
Yeah, nah means obviously no.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nah, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty keen.
you got
Okay.
this.
Yeah, got it.
Here's the statement of the day.
God.
Is it okay to put milk in the bowl before the cereal?
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah?
Nah.
Why?
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 It just doesn't make logical sense.
Nah, I'm with you. Yeah, nah. Like
'Cause-
what?
Because I
That's
feel like
weird.
the cereal would like float on top of the milk.
Exactly.
And it just, you want your cereal to be in the milk.
Right.
Yeah.
But not
Honestly,
soggy.
But not soggy. So
So
you
you have
have
to
a
eat it
time
fast.
limit
Yeah,
on eating.
yeah.
I honestly think it's going to be a question that psychologists ask like sociopaths.
Do people actually do
like
that?
serious? Like
Well, I
it's,
reckon-
it's weird.
Wait,
The
what
only
do you
thing-
do?
No. I'm also, I would like to actually like go against it and just be that guy that does it, but I don't. So
We go against the grain.
Yeah.
I hate it.
So yeah, I reckon maybe the only reason I wouldn't do it is because like if you're pouring your cereal into already milk, then wouldn't it be splashing around? The milk would be splashing back, you know? But the other thing why I would actually want to is because I often put too much milk in my cornflakes. So if you knew the amount of milk that's in there and then you pour your cornflakes in.
I think it also depends
think
on the cereal too.
I think it's the other way.
Look, I'm just trying to come up with a conspiracy
Out of
theory.
your
So,
ass.
yeah, just trying to get...
That would totally make sense if it was Cocoa Pops.
Yeah,
Because
right.
the
Right.
milk turns to chocolate. So that's the
Yeah.
only thing that I would... Logically, I'm like, I would put
Maybe
heaps
it
of
might
milk.
work.
Wait, so do
for
you like
Cocoa
more
Pops.
milk or more cereal?
I'm a milk.
You're
Milk.
more milk? More
Depends
milk.
on the cereal.
Right.
Right. See, all the context is important.
Yeah.
See?
Right. Okay.
What is a vegan cereal?
What?
Sorry, she's a vegan. I've been asking these questions.
She's a vegan.
Sorry.
That's how she
Don't worry about my friend.
She
She's
identifies
vegan.
as a vegan.
Don't worry about her.
Yeah.
cool.
Is most cereals vegan? No.
No. So I'm so boring. I love porridge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love porridge, like banana, berries, syrup. Oh, my favorite. But
So
there's
you
like
don't
just.
even have a milk ratio.
Nah, I'm just like nah.
Yeah.
Wait, do you have alternative milk?
Oat milk.
There we go.
Yeah. Do you like oat milk?
I like oat and coconut milk.
Oh,
Yeah,
and coconut.
oat.
Yeah, I'm an island girl. Coconut milk is where it's at.
Yeah.
So those are my favorite. But there's like just right.
Okay.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like
Sucks.
yeah. You said it. You said it.
That-
Naya.
yeah.
And it's like granola though. I don't mind granola, but
A
it has
good
to be like,
granola.
it has to be good. Like it can't
Like a
be
good
like
Hubbard's granola.
oh,
Sure.
a Hubbard.
Yes.
You know why? Because they don't make it too like they add like so much sweet stuff in it too, so it's nice. But
That with like
Yeah.
maple syrup
oh,
on top.
I don't know why I asked. Shush.
gorgeous.
Shush.
Oh my
But I love-
god.
yeah.
I'm
This is-
hungry.
this is way
Yeah,
past
shut
the
up,
point.
shut up.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next one is that we're doing a pop quiz. So you've got
Yes,
questions,
I do.
and we have some fancy whiteboards.
So fancy.
So fancy. Oh, where's my pen? Oh no. Oh, right there. Jared, thank you.
Thank you.
And we are going to write on these whiteboards our answers, and then we're going to have a little chat about them.
Cool.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
It's a great learning
Alright.
thing for us too, because a lot of these episodes we have not known much.
Yes.
It's good though, education. right?
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, round one. What
Dun, dun, dun.
proportion of New Zealanders have a personal experience of mental distress?
Proportion of New Zealanders.
This is really interesting.
Oh. One in four.
1 and 3.
Correct.
Ooh.
1 and 3.
Remember, you weren't listening to Ty yesterday.
Is it time?
That is why I win all of these.
Oh,
see what I
told
have
us
to deal
that
with?
yesterday.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Oh.
great. Okay, yeah. Oh, not that it's great.
No, it's
no,
not
it's
great.
not great. But great that I got the point.
You got it
but,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 1 and 3. That's so many people, man.
Yeah.
That is so many people.
Mental distress. That would be like, that's sad.
That's sad. I wonder what it looked like. Is this like from pre-COVID or post-COVID? That's
I'm
what
not
I'd be
sure.
interested to see if that's changed at all. Has it gone high? Has it gone lower?
100%.
But
yeah.
also, what is mental distress?
Yeah.
Because like, I get distressed not finding my keys.
Yeah.
So like, what
Yeah.
is the scale of
Is it
mental
any scale or is it
Yeah.
like a certain scale?
Right.
Yeah.
No, but oh yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Round 2.
1 and 3. That's it.
What percentage of people in New Zealand know someone who experiences mental distress?
What percentage?
Yeah, of people in New Zealand know someone who experiences mental distress.
Bro, honestly,
I've gone very high.
I've gone high too. 72%.
Oh, I went 70%.
It's actually 77.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, we're in the 70 mark.
You guys, yeah, the
Yeah.
idea was there.
Yeah,
That's great.
exactly.
That's really high.
That's really
so
high. And imagine how like stressful that would be on someone that knows someone.
Oh my god.
Like the
Yeah.
mental heaviness that you have to carry
Oh,
as well.
Does
it's
that
such a
turn into
burden.
mental distress?
Exactly. Right?
Right.
Maybe that's why it's high.
yeah.
Who knows?
And it's wild because for something so common, we're still struggling to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yet it's so prevalent and visible in our communities.
And 77%.
It's 77%. And also, like, we focus a lot on, like, people experiencing mental distress. We don't often focus on how to equip people with the tools to support and afi those who have who are
And
experiencing
protect
it.
their wider at the same time,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Mm.
It's intense.
Round 3?
Let's do it.
Okay. True or false? Mental distress is higher amongst young people.
Say that again. Say it again.
True or false? Mental distress is higher amongst young people.
False.
Whoa.
Before I say who's right, why false?
Because I think that we often focus on young people experiencing mental distress, but we don't often talk about people who are experiencing it later on in life.
Hi.
I know, that's just my thought. I
Way
might be
more
wrong.
old people.
But I
than-
just think, and I think that older
young
people
people.
struggle with it a lot more than our generation today, who are our rangatahi, because I think we're of the generations that are trying to do better with it. But I don't think our older ones have the tools to talk about it.
I
All the
feel
mindset.
like maybe
All the
our
mindset.
older ones aren't as vocal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they've
100%.
experienced it. They just don't have the words for it. And also, like, the pain and the shame and
Yeah.
the generational, like silencing of it all, I think.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
15 to 24-year-olds have the highest rate.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, eh?
Wild.
Did you think that's your glory days?
But then there's also a lot of pressure
Yeah.
in those time frames to get your life right, and you're only
Yeah.
like
Totally.
you're only a baby technically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, round 4. What proportion of the population experience medium to high levels of mental distress?
Percentage.
Proportion
Proportion.
Medium to high levels.
of mental distress.
Of the population, whole population, or of the people who are mentally distressed already?
Population.
Okay.
I said 1 and 3.
Whoa, I went 1 and 10.
It's 1 in 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, when I think of medium levels of anxiety and depression and whatnot, I feel like we don't often think about that level, though. Like, I think we focus a lot on, like, the high levels, but we don't just, like, I know where I was going with that, but that's just my thought
I was
process
thinking,
about it.
I think I heard this question wrong. I was
Hey,
actually thinking.
you gave it a go.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is
Wow,
sad though.
that's wild. I think, like, although numbers aren't important, it's interesting to look, we've seen a lot of numbers the past few days. Like, it's interesting to see the numbers about some of these issues, because it's just like, it's really confronting.
Yeah.
And like, when you scale it down to that, you're like, oh, I know people. Like, like if we're thinking about a number of people in a room, like,
Well, there's literally 5 of us in the
exactly,
room right
it makes it so much more real.
Yeah.
When you can see it that way. Like, that's, although I do think like stories are better to humanize the experiences. I think numbers are helpful to see like the realities of how bad it is.
Even just me like reading that out loud now, there was a moment where you guys were writing your answers and I went, oh yeah, I'm not alone. Like, one in 5, like I was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm not crazy.
It's very likely, actually,
Yeah.
Anyways, whoa,
Also,
I'm not going to cry already.
No, yeah.
Not in your pop quiz.
This is my pop quiz.
Was that the last question?
No, there's one more.
Okay.
What proportion of the population will be affected by an anxiety disorder sometime in their life?
Can you say the question again?
I sure can. What proportion of the population will be affected by an anxiety disorder sometime in their life?
Oh, wait. I don't know. I don't know. 1 in 5?
I went 1 in 4.
1 in 4.
You're good at this guessing game.
Man, that's crazy.
That's wild.
Anxiety, right? Like, that's crazy.
Because, I mean, anxiety is so, it's such a, I feel like also it's quite a broad thing. Like, people experiencing it so differently too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to like take it away from people who really do suffer from crippling anxiety and stuff, but it's getting more commonly, it is getting more exposed, you know, depression and anxiety than it ever has been.
Yeah.
And it's being talked about more. And do you think it might have a negative impact on some kids where they feel like it's trendy to be sad?
I think so.
And like they want to be a part of that step because like everybody else is sad and they all dealt with some life crippling thing when they've changed and grown from it.
Yeah.
That they want that experience.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What I've seen, especially in my own whānau, because a lot of us actually have anxiety and depression through our whānau, you can see some that are like super, super happy, and then there's just a point where they're like, oh, I need to be sad like everyone else. It's like, no, you don't. Go live your life. Go be happy. Like, you're fine. But I think, there's that trending society, and I think also social media plays a huge part of anxiety and depression at the moment. There's a lot of escapism and a lot of like other things that just blow it out of proportion for humans
in general.
I
think also like when it comes to young people, I feel like we're still figuring out how to differentiate between depression and sadness. Like depression is like an actual like diagnosis of a mental health, experience. And although we all have mental health, obviously we have different levels and experiences
100%.
that contribute to it, right? But I feel like when I'm feeling sad, I know that that's not depression. Like it's just some of these days I wake up and I'm sad, and I'm allowed to sit with it and experience it as a human. And I think sometimes because you see something, you're like, oh, you want to name it so you can be like, oh, see, I'm not like losing it. Like there's a name for it. Like this is what I can title it to make sense of it, and I can explain it better to people. Whereas like oftentimes when people are like, I have depression, I'm like, what does that mean? Like it's not because I'm discarding it. I want to know, like, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you, right? Because it feels quite different for every single person, and it's based on their experiences, So like for you, what does it mean when you say depression and anxiety for you? What does that look like for your day-to-day life, and how it's come up as an experience for you?
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable.
Yeah, of course. Well, for me, I was actually first diagnosed with minor depression when I was 15, 16. And my parents actually thought it was just me being sad. And especially back then, like I say back then like I'm old, but back then even like mental health wasn't really spoken about still. And it was really tough for my teen years and early 20s. Even then, it was still hard for me to talk about what anxiety and depression looked like for me. But now, my day-to-day, I guess, for anxiety and depression, my anxiety is actually probably my main disorder. I say that in the way that it is, that manifests itself quite often day to day.
Right.
Depression is one that manifests itself when I'm very in a deep and dark place. And that's when there's a lot of stuff that I can't handle or can't process. But as I've gone through therapy, I've figured out how to coping mechanisms, like, they don't really work for too long, in my opinion. Well, for me, they didn't, and I was doing a lot of that. Once I learnt how to, breathing techniques, how to process emotions and process what's reality and what's not, then I was able to kind of work through it. So I think for me, day to day, it's more so my anxiety that manifests itself. I haven't had a huge depression low probably in about 6 months. It's been really good, yeah. I'm off my meds, yeah. Wow. So, yeah, I've tried not to rely on meds from the beginning. Yeah, because once I had my son, I got diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety and severe PTSD. So,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, but there's nothing that I can't do. And I've learned, like, I guess out of everything, I've learnt resilience through it all. Yeah, so.
What was your experience with medication? Sorry, Tahu. What was your experience with, like, medication? You only were medicated for depression?
Yeah, for anxiety and depression.
And both, right?
Yeah. I hated it. Right. They tried me on 2 different pills, and they made me feel sick. Like I wanted to vomit. And I'm someone that I like to listen to my body. And if something doesn't sit right with me, same with contraceptive pills, like they just don't sit with me at all. And I think it was hard because I really tried to push myself because of how suicidal I was and how having a baby at the time that needed me, I was like, I need to be here. I need to be here. And I was like, I need to take these pills, but they make me feel like shit. Like, how do I flip the two? Yeah. And my therapist was amazing. Yeah. She's a Maori therapist down in the Waikato. Thank you. And she is very much in tune with, we're on the same level of like spirituality, listening to your body, and being tipuna led is something that I like live by now. And she was like, what do you feel like? What's being told to you and your truth? And I said, I can't do the medication. I can barely function as a human, let alone a mama. And if I'm sick, like I can't even do that. And she was like, okay, I'll support you as much as I need to. And literally that's what we did. Wow. So she gave me different techniques, breathing techniques. There was one that really got me good where if I had a really low day and I felt like I was raging, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I would see red, and there were moments where I was literally banging my head against the shower because I just wanted to stop the feelings. Like, it feels really like mum-itis say it out loud because it sounds crazy, but yeah, there were moments where physically I was trying to hurt myself but not kill myself, but hurt myself so that I could stop thinking about the heaviness of how I was feeling. But she had one little technique where you get a wet flannel and you pop it in the freezer, and when you get to a low point, you pop it on your forehead, and there's something chemically in your brain that just stops it from thinking, like stops it.
It's like, holy fuck, cold.
Yeah. It's like, breathe.
Yeah.
So that one was super helpful for me and got me out of like some really dark moments. And then once I was able to maybe mentally I'd go, I'm grabbing the flannel and I'm putting it, rather than actually doing it, I was able to process, kind of trick my brain. Yeah. And so that was my transition really into getting off the meds. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very brave sharing that. Good on you.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's recent.
Yeah, literally.
So it's still something to work through today. And I think I've pushed this narrative a few times on everyone through the week. We've had this discussions come up a few times, and like I've gone through a depression state before, not where I was diagnosed, but I knew I was in the pool. I knew I was in the darkness, and I knew that there was something I needed to change. But the thing I've come to learn that worked for me is recognizing my pain, my sadness, and knowing that it's not actually wrong to feel that way.
Yeah.
Like that's the stigma of people where everything has to be light and everything has to be fun and everything has to be happy. But the fact of the matter is, shit sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it just sucks.
100%. Yeah.
It's just shit.
It's just shit.
Shit all around.
Yeah, and it's okay for shit to be shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, because, yeah, and there's no, like, actual, like, oh, this is how you get better, this is... And another thing that I feel is hard for me when you're talking about your experience is, like, all the diagnosis and stuff. I understand it's helpful to know what is actually going on with you, but it's also a real Western way of approaching it, and it sometimes doesn't fit for our Indigenous people, especially
100%.
Maori and Pacifica, because in our you know, what's it called? Culture. I was going to say Maori tanga. Yeah. In our culture, things like sadness and things like anxiety, things like those type of emotions, there's a different atua allocated to every emotion. And so, like, if you're feeling fiddle in those moments and you just fucking hate everything and just want to push everything away, not that fiddle only does that, but that could be a trait of him, then just understand that's that atua coming through you at that time. Because there's other times where you're ready and your tūmataunga coming up and you need a fucking fight, or you need a scream, or you need to punch the wall, and recognizing that just because they say this is wrong, it might not be for you. Like, it's not wrong for you, eh?
Yeah.
You needed to, not saying that it's the right thing to do, but you needed to bang your head against that door at that time because there was just too much here that you needed to feel something somewhere else.
100%.
And not that that's the right way to go, but all wrong way, who knows? Not me.
Not me.
Yeah, I'm not the specialist here, but maybe like that, you going through those ways and you're just eliminating processes of how not to deal with it. And maybe you can find some way better than hitting yourself against this.
That hasn't happened for a very long time.
Yeah,
I just thought I'd put it out there.
But it's a good way to, that's a strong thing to share, because I'm sure plenty of people go through that where they would just want to feel.
Yeah.
Just something.
And allowing
something.
those feelings too, because I think for me, even with you bringing up whiro, I'm still on my journey. I'm still on especially my decolonization journey. It's really, because I'm not only Maori, but I'm also Pacifica, so I'm trying to juggle
Navigate.
everything. Yeah.
It's a whirlwind.
It's a
whirlwind.
I've been trying to learn more about maramataka, and for me, every time that I have felt really low, or even it's like the bottle's fizzing a little bit, and I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling a little bit off, and I literally will check and it'll be like fiddle, and I'm like, no.
Right.
And it's really good because I'll check in every now and then and figure out where we are, and I'm kind of like, okay, realign myself, and that's why I say my therapist, who's Maori as well, has been really grounding for me. Having another Indigenous wahine want to back me up and say, listen to your body, and it's okay to listen to your body. So yeah, it's interesting that you say in regards to the westernization of the terms and everything, but also allowing us as Indigenous people to really dig deep and be connected to who we are at the same time.
I think it's massive because it's box ticking, the Western culture. It's that's depression, tick. You've got this. This is what you have. And this
here's
is
medication.
Yeah, and here's how to fix it for us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily work for us. And if you think about all of our prophets and tohunga back in the day, people today would say schizophrenic, tick. Those are your qualities. And the kupu we use, pōrangi, to be the easiest way to explain that in Pākehā is probably crazy. That's how they translate it, pōrangi. But if you look at the kupu and break it down, pōrangi, they're the people who move pō night, rangi in the sky. They're the ones who travel in the dark, and they can see in a different realm that we're not seeing. So it's not that they're wrong or they're crazy, it's that's their state that they move in. So yeah, that's where I think understanding it from a Maori perspective, it's not like.
Sorry, that was beautiful.
Well, every time someone speaks, I'm like, come on now, Jim.
Like, literally, as you were saying that, I was thinking of, so my grandmother, she went through a phase after having one of her children, and she ended up going to a mental hospital.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, she's crazy, and she's pōrangi, blah, 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 blah. And I was kind of like, we've done some research on it, and they actually thought something was wrong with her. And now, as the younger generation coming through, we've had a kōrero together as cousins and gone, she just had like postpartum depression and anxiety, but yet she got put into a mental hospital. And so when you're saying that, I was like, I just wish my grandmother knew that. Yeah.
No, feel it.
Yeah,
because I feel like that knowledge is like really important, and like there's healing in that
100%.
that knowledge, right? And I think because of like obviously history, we've been stripped from that knowledge. So to like also sit here and have all that knowledge of your like going through anxiety and depression, but also hearing this, it's like, well, now you can like go out and reflect on it and like sit with it. And my question around like therapists, because I feel like I feel like a lot of people like want to access this, but it is quite inaccessible for a lot of reasons. But I wonder, like, what was it like trying to search for one? Because I know, like, for a lot of people, it's like you have to kind of find someone, and like you have to kind of have a few rounds of it being really like shit. Like some people just shit, and then like it takes like 6 or 7 times until you find the person that clicks. But it's like you have to persevere.
Yeah,
to, like,
100%.
sleep around.
You have to sleep around.
So true. I didn't sleep around with my therapist.
So how did you find this person, and like what was the defining moment where you were like, that's who I need, I'm sticking with her?
Okay, so a little bit of, I guess, past talk about counsellors and therapists. We're gonna go there. So being brought up in a certain religion for me, or organised religion, if something was wrong with me mentally, they would have in-house church counsellors or therapists, and it was very particular with what they would say. It was very like, keep you in a box and like stick to this. And then once I decided to go on my journey with stepping away from the church and organised religion, instead of going to the church for mental help or confession session and explain how I'm feeling, and then they get, you know, someone in-house to see me, I decided to go to my GP. And I went to my GP, and my GP was awesome, and he said, well, there's actually a maternity unit for Maori mama down in the Waikato. And he was like, because you're Maori, you qualify for this, and this, we'll refer you on to these guys. So I went to them. Yes, some of them were Pākehā, but they were very much in our corner. Most of them spoke Te Reo Māori, and I felt comfortable with them being in my home. They came and visited with me, and they said, hey, we need to get you to a therapist. And I said, okay, can they not be white? I specifically said to them, because I felt like my journey in like decolonizing myself, that I needed someone to relate to me and my mamai, my deep mamai, especially in organised religion, being conformed to a society or a group of people. I just needed someone to be on my level and understand. And they said, that's why we're here. And so, they referred me on to, actually it was really interesting because they had 2 others that I was on the waiting list for, and I was on the waiting list for 6 to 8 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really long.
That's so long.
That's so long, because like in between that's when you need it.
That's when I was banging my head. Like, I'm not lying. Like, it was really hard, and I think that's proof as to how much Māori therapists to me are needed.
Absolutely.
Here at home, because our people need our people at the same time. So then I came across my therapist, and I've only ever had online sessions with her. I've never actually met her in person yet, and I think when I do, it will be when I'm kind of finished, and I can feel my wairoa telling me that will be kind of like the seal. And she's always said, when we're finished, we're going to be friends. I'm like, I should say that off the mic just in case, but not professional. But no, she's...
I feel like anyone would want to be your friend, though.
Oh, stop.
You're amazing. Yeah, no, but
hope
so.
But yeah, then I started talking to her over the few sessions, and then I realised, you know, I love my therapist. Like, I feel like I'm so connected to her. But I think if
Or
I could...
maybe you shouldn't finish then.
Yeah, I know.
You
I'm
should
like,
just, keep
I gotta
it
find
forever.
something else to talk about. Let's go. So this problem, and this, and then something else happened, and then oh my gosh. But she's so funny. Like, she'll message me and be like, my widow is telling me to check in with you. How are you doing?
Whoa.
I'm like, okay.
I love that.
Yeah, and literally I'll be like, I'm at breaking point. Or like, because usually I was doing weekly sessions with her, and then it got to, okay, you're doing your own thing now. Like, I can see that. You just message me when you need me. Then it got back to weekly again, and then she's kind of backed off again just now recently, just to let me, I'm in the new season of life at the moment, and I'm really happy with where I'm at. And so, yeah, she's like, when you need me, just call me. So,
that.
yeah, I'm pretty much in a state now where my therapist understands where I'm at, and I think it's important for people to find that for their therapist. And it's okay to be picky. If you go to your GP, like, if one thing I can say is, if you are feeling like you have symptoms of anxiety or depression, go to your GP. If you trust your GP.
Yeah.
If you
You've got a
don't trust,
good GP.
if you don't trust your GP, change your GP first.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel like if your GP is in your corner, then you're able to go forward and do your thing. So at the moment, my therapy is covered through ACC.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's fucking expensive, eh?
It's so expensive.
So
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. So I think it's also, people need to know their rights and what they're entitled to in regards to therapy here in Aotearoa, because it's totally needed. Hence why the long
Waitlist.
wait lists. They're crazy. But yeah. If that's anything I can say about therapy or anything, it's just be picky. It's okay to be picky, and ask the questions that you need to ask with your GP.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to not be fucking my
Hard out.
like.
What, 1 in 3, 1 in 5, everything that we've just said, right?
Yeah.
In the quiz.
I shared this with Tola before, but around the stigma of going to therapy, and you know, like, it's like, oh, you go to therapy, something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, something's off.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hear it a lot with my friends at Maori, like, we're all Maori, and I didn't hang around with too many Pākehā, not against Pākehā. It's the wrong thing to say. But I just need to speak Māori. I just have to. It's a part of my life. And then, but the narrative I see coming from them is that, like, they wouldn't go to counselling because they don't want people to judge them. And I've learnt about different atua Māori, especially, and thinking about Māori as a whole people anyway. Wānanga has always been a part of our culture, and to talk through things, to discuss things, to break things down. But there's a atua in specific called Hine Kōrero, and she's the atua of, oh, well, not she, we shouldn't use genders for atua, but they are the atua of reflective waters. And so it's the reflecting waters, and on Tāne's journey to get the kete, the 3 kete, the, what are they called? Kits of knowledge. That on his journey, he called out to Hine Kōrero and used her as a platform to wānanga off as a counsellor. She was his counsellor through all of his journey, and they would sit together and reflect upon her waters about what's gone on in the past, what's working for him at the moment, and what he can do better in the future. Yeah, and so it's literally in our history.
Yeah.
To find counsel, to seek wise counsel.
Yeah. Safe counsel.
Safe counsel, yeah. But that space, and even, you know, we stigmatise Tāne as this leader, big rangatira that didn't need any help. He himself needed therapy.
Yeah.
Through this whole process. So it's something I think you should have no shame in.
Yeah.
And something we need. Because
Yeah.
this fella needed, our literal atuas needed therapy in our stories.
More people need to know that.
Yeah, it's a real
Hard
powerful
out.
story. Yeah.
I just think more people need space, right? To talk through what they're feeling, and I don't think we normalize that enough. Like, I
We need
feel
to
like
find narratives that fit us, eh?
Yeah.
That's what
absolutely.
it is. Yeah.
And like that's why it's beautiful to like sit here and like Tahu shares so much beautiful knowledge around you know, being Maori, and I think that's so powerful, because I think it really changes when we're able to be like, look, this exists, this is here, this is present. It's just like trying to find it and access it. And that's why it's so important that we try to figure that out.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, when it comes to like you and your day to day, how do you find your joy while experiencing this? Like, what brings you joy?
Ooh. I think for me, what brings me joy is practicing a lot of gratitude. I know I don't want to minimize my mama, because it's there for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it makes me stronger.
Yeah.
But my joy really is my son. I'm such a mama. I'm just like, But yeah, it's when I look at him, I see everything that I want for him. I see his future. I see, and with that future includes me.
Yeah.
And I think where I have to go, I need to get my mental state right so that I can see him get married. I can see him go to university. I can see him go to school. You know, I can see him do these big achievements. And mainly my son, I feel like I get a lot of joy from my son, because I've worked really hard on my mental health, really for him, but also for me.
Absolutely.
As well. I think a lot of mama, we forget that we're women, like we're strong women, and we have to give ourselves credit as well. But I guess day to day, I've tried to be like, meditation has been huge for me.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to sit with yourself, and that can be so bloody confronting, even on the shit days, and you're kind of like, fuck, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
But then you have to go, actually, I'm not okay right now, but let's move through this as safe and as like best as we can.
Absolutely.
And do some deep breaths. Life sucks, but we're going to keep going, because that's why we're here. And as I've learnt to meditate through my dark moments, or even like my self-doubt, I've found that I can actually carry a lot more heavier things now. Before I couldn't even do little heavy things. Now I can carry some pretty heavy days, and I can go, all right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got
So
this.
yeah, so I
We
think it's
got
learning how
this.
to, for me, day to day, here we go, trying to work through my emotions and learn how I can cope with my own emotions and sit with them and be
Ooh.
okay.
Yeah.
Did if you don't mind me asking, did the when you got diagnosed with depression the first time, did you have any idea where it stemmed from, or so there was a actual thing that's happened?
Yep. So I have a past of I guess some childhood trauma, both physical, sexual, and mental. And I was in a pretty rough relationship at the age of 15.
Right.
I was kind of thrown in the deep end pretty early. And yeah, I just couldn't deal with it. And I think because we didn't really talk about trauma back then, it kind of just manifested through a really toxic relationship. And then from there, yeah, I just wanted to cark it majority of the time.
Wow.
Like a lot of my high school years, like literally up until I was 15, I was top of my class for English. I was, overachiever in sports, like music, same thing. And then as soon as I hit 15, 16,
Changed.
everything just dropped. Like I barely scraped through the end of high school. No. But yeah, for me, that was my turning point. And it's really interesting because even like up until a couple of years ago, that same relationship was still triggering me as a full-grown adult. Yeah. And then on top of that, so I'm adopted to my grandparents, and my relationship with my biological dad, being adopted in itself is quite
big thing to deal with.
Yeah, I try not to say like it's a big deal, but for me it was. So I'm not going to minimize my feelings, but the feelings of abandonment. And so when you're in that, it kind of cycles down into I'm alone, I can't handle things, no one loves me, and then that kind of spirals into that big deep pool. And yeah, I think I was diagnosed with severe PTSD.
What's PTSD? Like actual post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yeah.
Like army PTSD?
Yeah.
That's what I know from.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, I was having flashbacks from that relationship when I was 15, even when I met my ex-husband.
Wow.
Yeah. Like there were like,
Years and
can I go
years
into
later.
this? Okay.
Absolutely.
So there was like, when I first met my husband, my ex-husband now, but he couldn't actually put his hand around my neck and kiss me in an intimate way because I had a fear of being strangled. So like for a year, I'd kind of push him away and I'd kind of put my hand up, or like I'd literally like, yes, yeah, being true a little bit. I'd shake because I was scared, even intimate wise, like sexual abuse, being a victim of sexual abuse. Anyone trying to show you love, you're always on edge because you don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, I got diagnosed with severe PTSD last year.
Wow.
Yeah, because I didn't know what it was. I kept having flashbacks, and I
Yeah.
could hear, like, if I ever went back into a flashback, I would hear the memory around me, and I'd be in it, and I'd be feeling it over and over
Oh
again.
my gosh, yeah.
And then once I have a flashback, then I would usually get triggered into a big depression bout, or I'd be anxious. Literally, I wouldn't be able to recover from it for weeks. But now I have little coping mechanisms and little ways, tools in my kit there for my PTSD. And I'm in a new relationship now, and I'm very, very safe, and I'm very safe within myself too.
And able to talk through it with
Yeah.
your new relationship.
Yeah,
It's massive that you've gotten to the point where you can actually voice it, eh?
yeah,
Because then you can start facing it.
yeah.
And that's like a really scary thing to face something that you thought had been gone. Like it was just like, because 15, you know, it's really easy to like write those things off. Especially for me, like I just think when I was 15, I was just a little idiot. Like there was like literally nothing I had in my kids at the time to help me. But like those things, I feel like, you know, well now they're obviously real
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. But that's 13 years ago, and still
Exactly.
affecting me as an adult.
So it's like, what do you do? How do you face it safely where those triggers and stuff don't come back as constantly?
I think for me, like, the therapy was huge because I learned how to talk about it out loud
Right.
in a safe environment with a safe person. And now I mean, you saw me, my hand was just like shaking a little bit, but I was able to go, actually, I'm safe.
Yeah.
I'm okay. There's someone here that I've known since intermediate. There's people that obviously give me good energy. I'm safe. I'm where I am. I'm safe. But being able to talk about it out loud has been really helpful for me. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it's that, as well as I need to heal my shit so that my son does not get affected by my trauma. That's like,
Yeah, that's
generational trauma is something that's affected me,
Oh yeah.
and I'm very determined that my son will not have to live with my trauma, and he won't have to experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very strong.
sit with that, Aaliyah. Sit with that. You're good.
Yeah.
It's also like, it's a big job. You've got to hit it. Good
luck.
Hard. Yeah, it's hard to not give our babies trauma because, like, you're still just human, like we said
Exactly.
before. Yeah, and we, like, as we've all learnt growing up now to the point where we've humanized our parents, and how hard it must have been for them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, going in his stages. He's in it now.
Yeah, and he's only 2.
Yeah.
My son's 2, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But I think, don't look at me. But one thing I've also said to his father as well, we need to communicate with our son and validate his feelings and allow him to feel what he needs to feel, because
Yes.
for me, my grandparents that brought me up, it was very much, hard it up, run it off, stop being stupid, stop being dramatic.
Yeah.
I heard that even up until last week, that I'm being dramatic, and it's like, no, actually, you're trying to minimize my mamai, and I'm not going to accept that. So standing up for ourselves is really huge in those situations. But I've always said, I need to do things different with my son. I don't want him to feel like he has to hide in his room and cry because he feels sad. You know, I don't want him to feel shy about or whakama about his feelings.
You want to create a safe space where you can communicate.
100%.
I love that. And you know what I love most is like that you're crying. You know, because even though if you don't, some people don't find it natural and it doesn't help them and they get frustrated, that's fine. But I think it also shows that crying is not a sign of weakness.
100%.
Obviously, listening to you, that is far from the truth. And so, like, however you feel, like sitting with it and allowing it, whether it's like tears or whatever it looks like, it's such I don't want to say refreshing, that's not the right word, but it allows the space to feel more human. You know,
it's reassuring
what I mean?
that we're humans.
It's reassuring that we're humans, and I think fundamentally that's what we're all trying to exist in, right? And survive it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And rapping, we need to rap, but
We always,
I'm like,
we always want to more.
Wait, we need another one.
bring up so much shit.
Part 2.
Yeah, mentioning your crying, hine kōrero, the reflective waters that they reflect upon were her tears. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They were actually roimata of all the gods. Every god's tear was the one that they reflected over.
Reflected over.
Yeah, because it's easy to reflect over good shit. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
a good pie. We
Yeah.
can reflect, yes, that was a yum pie. But a hard fight, it's like, you don't want to face it. Yeah, so it's everyone's tears.
Yeah.
Those are the waters. So you're contributing to her.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Take them.
Let it into a puna. Let it into a puna, yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
I love it. I love this. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today. Like,
Anytime.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for your bravery to
hard out.
be able to voice and still going through it.
Yeah.
Still going through it. And
It's very real for you now.
I think I'll always go through it though.
Yeah,
I think that's the one
Right.
thing that people with anxiety and depression and PTSD might have to understand is that it could come back at any time. It's just how you get stronger, more resilient, and the way that you learn to live with it.
Right.
that's it. Like living with it, because you're not like trying to cure it. That's a part of you. That's who you are, right? So
And you don't
it's
want that
like-
expectation,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think expectations also require disappointment.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I stop putting expectations on myself of I need to get rid of this bad memory or this bad PTSD bout or my depression and my anxiety, but then it would come back and I would go
Yeah.
dip
Right.
right down. So for me, I've learnt to live with it.
Right.
And I'm doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, you are.
Absolutely.
Way
And
to go.
Yeah, this is amazing.
That's me.
And hold on to your baby.
Yeah.
Yes, my little baby.
Because I think joy is really important in this, as much as sadness and
Yeah.
feeling all that thing. Like both these things can be true at the same time
Yeah.
as we exist. So thank you so much for being
It's all
with
right.
us.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
I love it. Wrap up. Later.
I feel good after that call to talk to that with you.
Yeah.
It feels really, I feel good for you. Like, I don't know why. I just feel like you're a very strong person. You're going to make it. You're going to make it good for your son anyway. Yeah, you're the man. You're the man.
The
Alright,
woman.
Thank you very much. Love.
Later. Bye.
Ka kite. Under the Whāriki. Catch you on the next one.
See ya.